In this video, we're going to take a look at the GitHub workflow, and what that means for us is, for the class, how do we get assignments off from GitHub, work on those assignments on our computer, ask questions about those assignments, and then finally submit the assignments. So the first thing I'm going to do is sign in. I'm going to sign in as a student. And when I sign in, I see a bunch of options here: setting up Git, creating repositories, whatever those are, forking repositories, and working together. So this is the way, this is what GitHub specialty is, allowing people to work together on a project. And in this case, the way we're going to think about this is student and professor working together. Now, we have a project that we're supposed to be working on, Hello World. So I'm going to go over to the class. Right now I am in my own account, but when I set up my account, I let Professor Cook know what my GitHub name was, so he added me to the class that I'm taking, and I'm taking Python 1, CSCI 156. And when I come over to that organization, so an organization is a group of people. In this case, this class, or this organization has all the students from the class and Professor Cook in it. I see that there's that Hello World repository. So a repository is where a group of people can work on a project together. And in this case, right now, this repository belongs to this CSCI 156 course. But what I want to do is work on that with just Professor Cook. I don't want the other students to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to create a version of this for myself. And that's called creating a branch, or in this case, making a fork of your own copy to your account. Now, you can see the little graphic here. The way GitHub thinks about it is you now have two copies of the same thing, and two different people can be working on the same project, and in the end, there's a way to merge those together. So I want to make this copy over into my student account. So now I have a copy of Hello World. And I get all the stuff from the setup. There's a README, there's our license, and then there's the actual assignment, helloworld.md. The .md files, those are what's known as a markdown language. So if you look at them as MD files, instead of just being plain text, there can be larger text and bullets and that kind of stuff. Anyways, that's not the part I'm interested in. What I want to do is take this project and work on it in PyCharm. So I'm going to clone that in my desktop, and the way I'm going to do that is click this button. Now, I will tell you that this button should start up the GitHub for Windows software, but in the last video, I was showing you how to install that software, and I started a partial install of the GitHub software and managed to break this thing. So I am going to do it a slightly different way. Now that I've made my clone, I'm going to start up the GitHub for Windows software manually. And so what the GitHub for Windows software does is it's a bridge between the GitHub and software on the internet and your Windows machine. And so what I want to do is look at different repositories. I don't want to create one. Actually, what I want to do is get the one that's already up there. So here is my forked branch of Hello World, and I want to clone that to my desktop. And you may remember that in that setup video, I had you put in a default directory of PyCharm projects. So by default, when I clone it, it asks where I want to go, and it's going to head me to PyCharm projects. And for this video, that's fine. We'll just store that there. So I'll click OK. And so this is going to make a copy of that assignment then on my computer. Okay, so now it's important that you do these steps in this order, and it's important that you make this clone on your desktop for what's going to happen next. I mean, you could just go up to GitHub and read the assignment and try to do it on your own, but it's important that you make that clone directory, and it's important that we're going to use that cloned directory for what's going to happen next. Okay, so I want to create a new project, and I don't want it to be there. I want to be in PyCharm projects. So I'm going to go look for that hello world. Now, it's important, again, that this location be hello world and this project name be hello world. This location has to be the folder that was created by GitHub. Okay, so I'm going to open that, and it's going to ask me if do I want to create it from existing sources. So the thing is with GitHub, when it created this folder, it put a bunch of files in there, and it uses those files to keep track of changes that you make to your work. So in fact, yes, we absolutely want to use existing sources. And here we go. So now we have a project to work on. And I'm going to make an addition to this. Well, I'm going to open this up. And I see the hello world.md file. So I'm going to take a look at that. And when I do that, because PyCharm recognizes that this is an MD file, it says, hey, you can install a plugin to look at it. So I'm going to install that plugin. I'm going to go ahead and restart that. Just take a second. Well, PyCharm's a little bit slower than that, so maybe not exactly a second. Okay. Well, that didn't really do much for me, I guess. But anyways, so this says I should create a program that prints out hello world, and my program should show how to use string concatenation. I'm not really sure what that meant, but I know how to print out hello world, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to create a Python file. I'll call it hello world, or maybe Darwin's hello world. Here's my name. This is an important step again. There seems to be a lot of those in this process. Do I want to add this to Git? Yes. So because I use that folder that Git created, Git realizes that I am adding a folder to it, and it's basically Git is asking, do you want to be able to synchronize your folder, this program, with the stuff that's up on GitHub? And the answer is yes, I do. Okay. Whoops. Well, I just got rid of the author. Put that back. So, there we go. I have a program. I'll test it. Should always test our program no matter how simple it is. That prints hello world, so I'm happy with that. And I'm going to submit this as an answer to this programming assignment. So to do that, I can come up here to my version control system button. So I got this activated by setting up GitHub in PyCharm like I did in the previous video, and by making sure that I am working in this hello world directory that was created by Git. One thing that I should have mentioned before, it's also crucial that when you do this cloning, that you clone from the forked branch. If you clone from the original branch in the CSCI 156 course, what I'm about to do next won't work because you won't have permission to send your stuff up to that repository. So I'm going to commit my changes, and I'll put a little comment in there. And I'm going to commit and push. So push means I'm going to send this project up to the GitHub site. And So we'll push. Okay, so that push was successful. That's good. And now I'm going to come up here and should be able to refresh this. And I see my Hello World Python project is up here. And so now I'm going to ask the professor if this is what he wanted. So what I'm going to do, let me back up. That was a little too quick. Up here, I have this create a pull request. So remember that we created our own branch of Hello World. Creating a pull request goes back to the originator of the project and says, hey, this other person has done some work on your project. They want to commit some changes to your project, some additions to your project. Will you allow that? So I'm going to create a pull request. And I'm going to add in, so this is saying that in this pull request, I'm requesting to add one changed file. And maybe I'll change the M to be a capital. I've heard that Cook guy is kind of fussy. And here I go. I'm going to create that pull request. And there we are. Okay, so now I'm going to stop acting as a student for a second. I'm going to sign out. And so now I'm going to pretend that I'm going to be Professor Cook. Yeah, Microsoft takes a little while to boot up. Okay, so when I created that pull request, that actually sent an email to Professor Cook saying, hey, student AUCS student has submitted something to your homework assignment, and they are ready to either be graded or have a question. So when I come in to GitHub, I have a notification that there's been a pull request, and so I can take a look at this. Now I could merge the pull request. If I do that, then the stuff that you submitted is actually going to go up into the master branch on the class. So I don't want to click that button. What I do want to do is take a look at, so here's the question. I can look at the commits, and I'm going to take a look at the files changed. And here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that the student has printed out Hello World, and they're asking me, is this what you wanted? And so I'm going to offer up a comment and say, not exactly, except for I can't type. Oh boy. You didn't use string concatenation. So I'm going to set up two variables. Oops. Boy, oh boy. Who let this guy type? Okay, so I'm going to leave a little note for the student, say this isn't exactly what I wanted. How do you get this thing to print out Hello World using these two different string variables? And then I will leave that comment on their pull request. And I'm going to sign out. And I'm going to open up a different email program. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to sign in. Whoops. Okay, so now I'm going to go down here and look at, I notice that, now this is the email address I have associated with the student account. And it looks like I got a couple of things here. Okay, there was a security key added to my account. I'm not going to worry about that. That's a different matter. But it looks like I have a comment on the question that I asked. So it's going to cause me to go log in. And when I log in, I now see that I have a notification. So I'm going to take a look at that. And when I look at that, I see my code. And in my code, it says, oh, wait a minute, this isn't exactly what I wanted. I better make some changes. Okay, so I'm going to go back here and make the changes that Professor Cook was talking about. And use this. Apparently, this is called string concatenation. Who knew, huh? Okay, well, let's see. Maybe I want to put a space in between those. Let's try that. There we go. That looks like a hello world, and it looks like I use string concatenation. So let's see. This is blue. I think that means I can submit this. And I'm going to push this up to GitHub. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my version of... Now this pull request is actually going to the class version of CSCI 156, but that's not where I want to go. I want to go over to my version, and I'll take a look. Yeah, okay, so this is the correct version, and I'm going to create a pull request. And well, I could. This is the. So we're still working on the original pull request, and I'm going to just type in another comment and say, "Is that better?" And when that happens, then my professor gets a comment saying, hey, something's happening with that student. You should go take a look at that. So we will go over. Let's see. As professor. And read our unread notifications. Take a look at, is this better? This time I use string concatenation, so something has changed in the files. Let's go take a look at that, and I see, oh, this is what I want. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to go back to the conversation and say, yes, that is what I wanted. And then I guess if I wanted to, give them a grade, add that comment, and then let's see, that's the end of it. So to recap, now I am not going to merge this pull request because again that would put your work up on to the main class's version of this branch. So this just gives us a way to interact. So to recap, you want to log into GitHub, fork a copy of the question that's up there, work on it in PyCharm, do your work, hit this, bring it up to GitHub, create a pull request, which will notify me that you've loaded up your work, and I will take a look at it, make comments, and then we can keep going back and forth as many times as we want on this. And every time we go back and forth, we're each going to get an email saying, hey, something's happened. And there you go.